In August, 14 years ago, al-Qaeda attacked U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing more than 200 people, including 12 Americans. President Clinton and then First Lady Hillary Clinton led the nation in a solemn ceremony at Andrews Air Force Base, receiving their remains. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya was Prudence Bushnell, who has since become a strong advocate for increased embassy security and joins me now from Washington. Ambassador, thank you very much. A lot was supposed to change after 1998. In fact, we see that the mandate for a review board was one of the results of the after-action reporting after that horrible tragedy. Let's see President Obama, who was referring to the Benghazi attacks just today in his speech in Virginia.
As we saw last week, we still face serious threats in the world. We have to make sure that not only our military but also our diplomats overseas are protected. We've got to go after anybody who harms Americans overseas.
From your standpoint, are our diplomats adequately protected in these embassies?
I think Benghazi clearly shows that they're not. While a considerable amount of construction has been done providing embassies, people who are assigned to embassies, small, medium, and large boxes and fortresses from which to do work, that is not being done in all of the consulates. It takes time and it takes money, and one of the issues with diplomacy has always been the consistency of funding. You cannot run an international operation like the United States Department of State and AID if you get inconsistent funding.
Ambassador, a lot of rules were changed. There were new setbacks. They built a new embassy, they had to, in Kenya, tragically. Right. But then there's also criticism, even from some in the Foreign Service. I talk to people all the time who say, we need to get out. Chris Stevens was such a strong advocate of getting out, of mixing it in with the people, and putting himself at risk because he felt that with diplomacy, you need to be with the population. How do you balance those priorities? I know you have those concerns, too.
I certainly do, and what I would love to see is for the American government and whomever becomes our president to look in the long term as to what kind of diplomacy do we want and how do we help our diplomats enact that diplomacy. Did you ever watch Star Trek when you were younger?
Sure.
Captain Kirk had the Enterprise, right? He had this wonderful spaceship, the Enterprise, that was fully functional and certainly safe. But Kirk and his staff didn't stay there. They would get out to different planets and go where no man would ever go before, do explorations. And when they got into trouble, Scotty could beam them up. Well, alas, we don't have beam me up technology yet for our diplomats who have to get out of their embassies. They have to interact face to face because that's how you influence. And yet we need to find technologies that will accomplish both. I don't know what they are yet. I don't know that anybody does. But the fact of the matter is we aren't looking at that issue. And that, I think, is what needs to be done.
A lot of people on the Hill, Susan Collins and others, were complaining that there weren't Marines at the perimeter of what was a mission, not even a full consulate in Benghazi. And the answer is we don't have Marines in these places. Should they have been there? Should they be on the perimeter? The perimeter is, we are told, the responsibility of the host country.
That's correct. And when we do have Marines, Marines are inside of the embassy. A lot of embassies have a small contingent, and the responsibility of these young men and women is to protect the classified information and the people inside the embassy. We don't put our military forces on foreign soil when it is the responsibility of the host country to provide the protection.
And what more do you think should have been done in Benghazi from your experience?
You know, I don't want to second guess, but I do wonder what the Accountability Review Board is going to show as to the security needs of the consulate. I say that having been ambassador in Nairobi for 2 years before we were blown up by al-Qaeda, and I was for 2 years trying to get the attention of the department to our security needs, and the answer was there's no money. if that's the answer again this time, then I think we need to do some serious soul searching about the leadership that we are showing our diplomats and development and civilian employees overseas.
Ambassador Prudence Bushnell, thank you very much.
Thank you
for joining us today.